Banned. That's what happened when 3 Australian engineers built a car so advanced it terrified the government. Only 3 units ever made it to the streets. In 1975, they stuffed this luxury beast with radar-guided braking, tech we barely see in 2024. But that's just number 1 on our countdown of Australia's craziest cars. Ever wondered what happened when a washing machine company decided to build supercars? Or why someone built a car worth 2 Ferraris in the Australian outback? 10 forgotten monsters of Australian engineering coming right up. And trust me, even most Aussies have never heard of these. 10. Lightburn Zeta, 1963. A washing machine company building cars? Yep, that's what Lightburn and Company did in 1963. These guys were crushing it in the laundry business when they looked at each other and said, "You know what? Let's build cars." The Zeta was their baby, Australia's smallest car with the world's weirdest design. They put the engine in backwards. The radiator stared out the back window. Only 400 people were brave enough to buy one. The best part? It had no reverse gear. The manual straight up told you to get out and lift the car to turn it around. Talk about arm day at the gym. 9. Bolwell Nagari, 1970. 3 brothers in a Melbourne shed took a Ford V8, dropped it in a body lighter than a Corvette, and created pure Australian muscle. Every single piece hand-built, taking 100 hours just to get the body perfect. This thing wasn't just fast, it was Ferrari fast, for half the price. In 1970, this Aussie beast was making Italian supercars nervous. The Nagari had everything: looks, power, and the kind of handling that made European cars look lazy. 8. Purvis Eureka, 1974. Before DeLorean made gull-wing doors famous, this Australian UFO on wheels was turning heads everywhere. The Purvis Eureka looked so wild, people thought it escaped from a sci-fi movie set. These mad geniuses grabbed a VW Beetle, stripped it down, and slapped on a body that would make spaceships jealous. The doors, they didn't just open, they shot up into the sky like eagle wings. Back in '74, driving one of these down the street was like being a rock star. Kids would chase you down just to see those doors open. And the best part? Unlike most crazy car designs, this one actually hit the streets. The same VW engine that powered millions of Beetles was hiding under that spaceship body. But nobody cared about what was under the hood. This thing was all about making jaws drop. 7. Nota Fang, 1973. Take an aircraft engineer who's obsessed with speed, let him loose with some car parts, and boom, you get the Nota Fang. This thing was basically a race car wearing street clothes. The guy behind it knew planes, so he made this beast lighter than a feather. In '73, this Aussie rocket could smoke a Porsche 911 like it was standing still. All because it weighed about as much as your grocery bags. Street legal? Somehow, yes. You could drive this track monster to the grocery store if you were brave enough. The cops never knew if they should write a ticket or ask for a ride. Here's the kicker. The same brain that designed military aircraft put together this pocket rocket in a tiny Sydney workshop. And man, did it fly. Not literally, though. Thank goodness. Number 6. Buckle Monaco, 1955. 1955. While Americans were crazy about their Chevys, Australia dropped their first ever sports car bomb. The Buckle Monaco wasn't just rare, it was straight up precious. Only 20 ever hit the streets. These guys didn't mess around with steel. Nah, they went full aircraft-grade aluminum for the body. Each one crafted by hand, taking hundreds of hours to get perfect. In 1955, this was Australia saying, "Hey world, we can build cool cars too." Built in a tiny Sydney shop, each Monaco was different from the last. Custom everything. If you had the cash, they'd build it your way. That's probably why only 20 rich folks got their hands on one. You think these cars are wild? Just wait. Up next is pure Aussie muscle that ate money faster than it drank fuel, and a monster truck that makes a Hummer look like a toy car. The craziest rides are still coming. 5. Giocattolo Group B, 1986. When Group B rally got banned, these Aussie madmen said, "Let's build one anyway." They grabbed an Alfa Romeo body, stuffed a Holden V8 in the middle, and created a monster that scared Ferrari owners. The price tag? More than a Ferrari. That's right, these guys had the guts to charge Ferrari money for a car built in Queensland. But this wasn't just some backyard build. It packed 400 angry horses and tech that made European cars look ancient. Only problem? The company burned cash faster than the car burned rubber. Each one cost more to build than they sold for. Talk about bad math. The creator dumped his life savings into these beasts. 7 lucky owners got their hands on one before the company went bust. Today, finding one is like spotting a unicorn doing burnouts. Nearly impossible. Number 4. OKA, 1988. Meet the truck that made the Outback its playground. The OKA wasn't built for school runs. This beast was made for crushing rocks and swimming through rivers. This thing could plow through water deeper than you are tall, 1.2 meters of it. Crocs in the water? No worries, mate. Sand dunes? Just another speed bump. The OKA laughed at terrain that would make a Hummer cry for mommy. Built tough? That's putting it soft. These trucks were designed to survive the harshest places on Earth. The Aussie Outback tried its best to break it, but the OKA just kept rolling. Some say it's the only vehicle that could cross Australia using just a dirt track in dreams. They didn't just make it tough, they made it smart too. Custom air systems kept the dust out, special cooling kept the engine happy in 50-degree heat, and the whole thing was built like a tank that learned table manners. 3. Leyland Force 7V, 1974. Talk about rare. Only 10 of these beasts were born, and Leyland crushed 9 of them before they even hit the streets. One escaped the crusher, now worth over $1 million. Why'd they kill it? The Force 7V was too good for its own good. Luxury leather everywhere, muscle car power under the hood, and build quality that would make Mercedes nervous. But Leyland was bleeding money, and this beauty was too expensive to save. The sole survivor sits in a museum today, teasing us with what could have been. It's the automotive equivalent of a lottery ticket that almost won. Some car nuts call it Australia's greatest what if, a luxury muscle car that died before it could show the world what Aussie engineering could do. 2. Escort TSV 1300, 1958. Back in '58, when Porsche was crushing it in Europe, Australia almost had its own sports car legend. The Escort TSV 1300 was our answer to German engineering, and boy, was it something special? These guys were pioneers. They ditched heavy metal bodies and went straight for cutting-edge fiberglass. Nobody in Australia was doing that in the '50s. The body was so sleek, so perfectly shaped, it made other cars look like they were designed with a hammer. Each curve was pure art, flowing from front to back like water. Under that beautiful skin sat an engine that punched way above its weight. The 1300cc motor was tuned to perfection, screaming like a race car but smooth enough for Sunday drives. They matched European performance with Aussie ingenuity. But here's the real heartbreaker. Only 19 rolled out of the factory. Each one hand-built with crazy attention to detail. The guys behind it had dreams of taking on Porsche and showing the world what Australia could do. They had the skills, the vision, and the passion. They just needed more time and money. Today, finding an Escort is like finding gold in your backyard. These 19 cars represent one of Australia's boldest attempts to play in the big leagues of sports cars. And they almost pulled it off. 1. Ilinga F2, 1975. Remember that banned car from the start? This is it, the Ilinga AF2. Only 3 built before the government pulled the plug. But why? Because in 1975, these guys created tech that wouldn't appear in regular cars for another 30 years. Radar-guided braking in 1975. While other cars were still figuring out power steering, the Ilinga was practically driving itself. The system could spot obstacles and slam the brakes before the driver even knew there was trouble. Today, we call that emergency brake assist. Back then, pure wizardry. The price tag was insane, double what you'd pay for a Rolls-Royce. You could buy two of the world's most luxurious cars, or one Ilinga. And people actually did. The interior was decked out like a private jet, with leather so fancy, it made Rolls-Royce look cheap. But here's what got it banned. The car was too advanced for its own good. Nobody knew how to regulate a car with autonomous braking. Nobody knew how to service it. The government took one look at this spaceship on wheels and hit the panic button. Safety regulations of 1975 had no rules for cars that could think for themselves. The three that got built? They vanished into private collections. Some say one still cruises Sydney's streets late at night, its radar system still working perfectly after all these years. The Ilinga wasn't just ahead of its time, it was ahead of everyone's time. All right, these weren't just forgotten cars, they were Australian dreams, built by madmen who didn't care about the rules. From a washing machine company's tiny Zeta to the mind-blowing Ilinga that scared the government, Australia's auto history is wild. Which one blew your mind? Was it the backwards engine Zeta? Or maybe that radar-guided Ilinga from 1975? Drop your favorite in the comments. And hey, if you're into crazy automotive stories like these, smash that like button and hit subscribe. We've got more insane car histories coming your way. Trust me, this is just the start of our automotive adventures.